Hi, everyone. My name's Tatiana Moroz. I'm a Polish American. My mom is from Warsaw, actually, so I speak quite fluently, but today I'm going to do my talk in English because I guess that seems to be the theme. I'm a singer-songwriter from the United States, and as long as I can remember, I always knew that I wanted to sing, and I always knew that I wanted to try and save the world. In fact, I remember when I was about 6 or 7 years old, I went up to my mother and I said, "Mom, what if we, everybody works and we put our money into a pile and then everybody takes a little bit away and, we would all be able to have enough money equally." And she said, "No, Tanya, that's communism and it doesn't work." So I went back to the drawing board and I listened to a lot of different music by singer-songwriters from the 60s and the 70s that were able to bring about great cultural change with the messaging in their music, and I was very, very impressed with that. As time went on, I started to read books like 1984, Brave New World, Animal Farm, and other dystopian novels that, frankly, scared me, and it set me further down this path. But what I found was my culture was not reflecting the same concerns that I had. Music had been on the decline for many years, with, to me, a demarcation point of death when Britney Spears came out. And at that point, I went to Berklee College of Music in Boston, and I kind of put my head down and I started doing jazz vocal performance, and I studied music business. And then upon leaving school, I started writing music. I was also very interested in the world. I had been reading quite a bit throughout college, and then I was watching a series of documentaries. And I had first really liked Dennis Kucinich, who was sort of the Ron Paul of the left in the United States. And in 2008, he was running for president, but there was another guy, Ron Paul, that I thought was cool, but I didn't quite understand his entire policy, so he was second place. In 2011, I watched the movie The Money Masters, and The Money Masters, to me, was a really big wake-up call, because couple that with America, Freedom to Fascism, and a film called Fiat Empire, and all of a sudden I became very aware of the Federal Reserve. To me, that was a way where all of the veils fell down, and it was clear who the real enemy was and how the established powers were able to maintain that power, and it was through the money system. I would sit up at night watching, Ron Paul video after Ron Paul video, and one day I stumbled upon a video by a girl named Amy Allen. Amy Allen was a singer, and she had written a song called Revolution, Ron Paul Revolution, that it was actually airing on television. It was a well-produced video all about the Ron Paul Revolution, and people were writing to her saying, "Write us some more political songs." And I think, after a while it can get very exhausting. And so she said, "Leave me alone, I don't want to write any political songs right now." I'm paraphrasing, of course, but I saw that as an opportunity where I could come in and fill that role. And this was something that, in my mind, I was born to do. I had a moment when I had watched her on Alex Jones. And what had happened to her was the CIA or the FBI, someone called her record label and they said, "You need to take this music down." And she said, "No, I'm not going to take this song down." And what ended up happening was a few days later, she was walking down the street with her friends late at night in Los Angeles, I believe, and 3 Mexican gang members came up to her, and the girls tried to give the robbers the money that they had. They were waitresses, I guess, so they had a lot of money on them, a lot of cash. And the Mexican gang members kicked away the money, because nobody likes money if you're in a Mexican gang, and they proceeded to beat the hell out of her within an inch of her life, including hitting her in the head with a crowbar. And I remember sitting in my room really feeling the weight of what it is that we were going against, because if you're going to try and silence a girl just like me and you're going to beat her within an inch of her life, we have a very, very heavy weight upon our shoulders, and I knowingly accepted that. Now, if that was happening to me, I may feel differently, but I pushed forward, and I started doing music for the Ron Paul movement. I was welcomed with open arms. It was an incredible experience. I got to sing for Ron Paul in front of a crowd of over 4,000 people in the pouring rain in Philadelphia. I sang in front of the Washington Monument with over 1,000 veterans that were supporting Ron Paul. And I genuinely believed that because there were so many motivated people coming from both the left and the right, coming together to try and bring about an evolution, that we would, of course, be successful. This was America. We have voting. We have rights. Well, I saw the Republican Party blocked Ron Paul time and time again, breaking their very own rules in order to keep him out. The media slammed him, and it became apparent that it was very, very difficult, in fact, impossible, to elect somebody that the people really wanted in power. There were two parties, that's all you get, the main guys, and they were already pre-chosen, in my opinion. That was a very sad time for me because it was almost like the death of that American belief in the electoral system. And at the same time, Tony Glippi and Stephen Pear from BitPay had sponsored a performance that I did in Florida. And they came to see me afterward, and they tried to tell me all about Bitcoin. And I was extremely bored. I wanted nothing to do with this. They kept rambling about it. I was hoping that we could change the topic, and they just kept hammering me with it until I said, fine, just take some money and, I don't know, just leave me alone. So they gave me a little bit of Bitcoin, and as the year went on, the price started going up, which obviously made it a lot more interesting. So I went on, and I was still going to all these different libertarian events, and I was so disappointed because all of a sudden, people weren't coming anymore. There was nobody there in the audiences, whereas we had had hundreds of people at a single event. Now we had dozens, if we were lucky. And also, the community was really losing their motivation because they kept spending money on these really large events and nobody would show up. I became friends with Jeffrey Tucker. Some of you may know him. He's from Liberty.me, an amazing social media platform that I enjoy very much using. You can check it out online. And Jeffrey talked to me about Bitcoin some more, actually ad nauseum. But the thing about Jeffrey is he's a really great speaker and he's a really great friend, and he has a way of making things really interesting. So he convinced me, and I went to the October 2013 cryptocurrency convention in Atlanta. And while I didn't understand what they were talking about still, what I did recognize was hope. And this was something I hadn't seen in a really long time. To juxtapose the death of the libertarian, I guess, gatherings compared to where everybody here was not holding up a picket sign, freezing outside, not begging the government for their rights. People were simply making a decision to opt out and to create alternative systems that would compete with the existing controlling factions. So I got excited, and I thought to myself, well, how am I going to get other people to care about Bitcoin? Because I could barely explain it. I thought, why not make a song? So I wrote a song called the Bitcoin Jingle, which I'll perform for you later. And the whole point of the song was to make Bitcoin fun and to really drive home the reasons why I thought Bitcoin were important. Mainly to wrestle away power from the war machine and to attain freedom and equality and also access to banking for people around the world. Because entrepreneurship became very important to me. Seeing how our current work structures were, I thought that being able to be creative and create solutions was something that I would like to encourage. I went and debuted it at the Buenos Aires conference down in South America, and this was at the peak of the price. This was when the price was about, I don't know, 1,000. I think it went up a little bit more after that, but everybody really liked the song, and I was really happy to be welcomed by a new group of people. And the second song that I sang was Masters of War. Maybe some of you are familiar with it. It's an old Bob Dylan song. It's actually quite a harsh song, a very strong song, and it's very cutting. And afterward, Andreas Antonopoulos approached me, and we ended up becoming friends because he also saw the reason for Bitcoin being a method to wrestle away the power from the war machine. I then became friends with Adam B. Levine from Let's Talk Bitcoin, and people started throwing around the idea of Tatiana coin. And some of you may wonder, what the heck is Tatiana coin? So Tatiana coin is the first ever artist cryptocurrency. And the way that it works is, you know how you have Kickstarter or Indiegogo? Well, if you have Kickstarter or Indiegogo, people donate to you, and then that's pretty much the end of it, right? You give them 25 bucks, they give you a t-shirt, thank you very much, goodbye, and that's the end of it. But if you take a company like Oculus Rift, which had raised over $2 million on, I believe, Kickstarter, and then 1 year later they sold their business for, I don't even know how much. I feel like it's $2 billion, but that sounds really high. So it was an extraordinary amount higher than, of course, the original $2 million raised. People were pissed because all of these people had put in money into this thing, and all they got was a lousy T-shirt. Meanwhile, the creators of Oculus Rift made a killing. And not that I begrudge them that, but it wasn't really an equitable system. Also, artists, musical artists, had been having a really hard time raising money and also connecting with your fans. So if I had fans on MySpace, okay, great. So when MySpace became less popular and everybody moved over to Facebook, all those fans didn't know to go to Facebook. They've got things to do. They're not really thinking about me 24/7. I mean, some of them maybe. But the point is that, you know, you were losing people. And then I got onto Facebook, and, you know, they have this thing where you can kind of market yourself to other types of people that have similar views as you. And I made an investment of my very limited budget in order to reach those people that I thought would like my music. And then next thing you know, Facebook is making it so I can't even reach the fans that I built up. So now Facebook is making money off of those fans, off of their eyeballs, and they didn't go to Facebook just for Facebook. They came to Facebook for me. And I had a really big problem with that. So, and I also saw that that was something that could keep repeating itself. So what Tatiana Coin would do is it would be a crowdfunding thing that would be ongoing. So I could sell my Tatiana coins for, let's say, 5 cents a coin. And what that would do is it would fund my album. So when my album comes out, the people who had Tatiana Coin would get first dibs, they would get autographed copies, they would go backstage to a special concert, they would get all sorts of different benefits that were special for just my fans, sort of like a reward system. This worked pretty well, but there were also a lot of difficulties with it because it's a brand new technology. And everybody was basically doing it just to help me out. It was the team over at Tokenly, which is now sort of launching their project, which is Adam's company from Let's Talk Bitcoin. And we did it on Counterparty. And in the past year, we've really been working on that. In the interim, I've also recorded my 3rd album, which is completely funded on crypto. And now what we're looking to do is to scale the artist coin concept so I can invite other artists to have their own direct-to-fan loop. So they can sell directly to their fans. They know exactly who their fans are. They can ask them whatever questions they want. You can do token-controlled access. So if you have a certain threshold of Tatiana Coin in your account, you're able to get certain bonus content and different things like that. And I think that that's really the first step of cutting out all the middlemen that have also been basically wiping out good music. If you're an artist, it's pretty miserable, to be honest, because you have to work a 40-hour-a-week job or more. You have to commute. You have to eat. You have to work out. You have to see your family. You have to try and find a guy. And then on top of it, of course, you just have to, you know, record an album because that doesn't cost anything, right? Of course it costs something. It costs a lot of time. It costs a lot of money. It costs a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. And my hope is that with an artist coin, we can sort of give back the power to the artist. And also on another level, you know, I managed a lot of different recording studios in New York, and there were people there that would have sort of a poor work ethic, and it would really frustrate me. But at the same time, I couldn't torture them about it too much because there wasn't really an incentive within these studios. I mean, these guys were basically cleaning toilets for nothing, and the owners didn't always treat them right. And it was really frustrating. So I couldn't even in good conscience tell them to do a good job because they had to be self-motivated. So I started thinking about all the people out there that basically go to work, and they sit around on Facebook, again, wasting time, paying their bills, doing their stuff, as much as they can get away with without getting fired. And I didn't really think that that was a good way that we as humanity should be approaching our workplace, right? Because when we're working, we're serving one another, and we're looking to achieve something. So I think that if you scaled the idea of a coin and you had everybody have their own coin, it would almost be like a rating system where you would be motivated by your own value to push forward and to be able to have people respect what you're doing. Tatiana Coin is very different from a lot of coins because it's not based on anything other than the content that I create and the reputation that I have. So I have to be doing a good job. Otherwise, people are not going to buy my coin, and it's going to go down in value, and everybody's going to be mad. Another thing that the coin allows you to do is it allows you to transfer that value. So normally, Lynn over there wants to buy my CD. She buys my CD. That's it. She's got the CD. If she buys an MP3, she can't even send it to anybody. And that's that. But let's say Lynn doesn't even like my music, but she thinks, you know, this Tatiana girl, she's onto something. I'm going to buy some of her coins. I think that she's going to be successful. Well, in a year or two, if I have more success, the coin will be more desirable. And since there's a fixed amount, the theory is that the value of them will go up. So it all of a sudden creates another, almost like a wholesaler, a third party that can transfer value that isn't a structured thing. I mean, sure, Apple could do it, or a larger company, but just the regular person could also speculate to a certain extent on which projects they think are successful. I think that this could be something that could be used also for visual artists and even for businesses. There are some questions because in the United States, the regulations around these things are constantly changing. And in my opinion, they are created in order to prevent access to other people. So it's still a bit of a uncharted territory, but I have to say it's been a really good journey. And one of the things that I think is the most important, and the reason that drives me every day with my music, is that talking about Bitcoin, if you're a guy that's like a programmer to another person, is not always the best conversation. I mean, Tony Glippy and Steven, they're brilliant, brilliant people, but I don't understand what they're talking about. However, people have relationships with their artists. They trust their artists. They believe in their artists. They love their artists. So if an artist can say to them, hey, why don't you try this semi-annoying new currency and it's going to help save the world, that's a completely different interaction. If Taylor Swift went out there tomorrow and said, I have Taylor Swift coin, I can bet you that that would have more impact on Bitcoin's price than a lot of the things that have happened over the past few years. I think that that could be a potential key for mass adoption. And I take great pleasure using my gift to educate people about the opportunities that are afforded to us through cryptocurrencies. And that allows me to talk about the ideas that I have in terms of libertarianism without having to say, I'm a libertarian. And I think that a lot of people who are, you know, they identify themselves as one political party, they put up a wall if you're not of their political party. However, you have a lot of things in common with different people. So I think that those are some of the keys to my approach and the way that I hope to change the world through music and cryptocurrency. Thank you.